For today's lesson, our focus standard continues to be from Grade 7, Statistics and Probability, Standard 5. Understand that the probability of a chance event is a number between 0 and 1 that expresses the likelihood of the event occurring. Our topic from the unit on probability today is simple probability. Our essential question is, how do we determine the sample space when calculating simple probability? Please take a moment, pausing the video if you need to copy down the topic and essential question along with today's date in your header, set up your question column and your note column, and resume the video when you're ready to begin. So today's video is going to look much like the last video, but we're just going to continue to add some vocabulary as we go. You may use a calculator on some of these, although I don't think you'll need to. And we're going to use the same probability format for showing our answers, where we write it as the probability of the given event is equal to the number of times the given event can happen, which we're going to refer to as favorable outcomes, over the total possible outcomes, which is the sample space. So let's dive in and practice using our new vocabulary, favorable outcomes, and sample space, and make sure that we are on the right track with calculating simple probabilities. Here's our first question. We have 9 cards. Typically, we would assume that they're face down. And we want to know what is the probability of drawing an even card from these 9 below. So take a moment and think about that. We want to determine how many favorable outcomes there are out of the total sample space. Let's work. How many favorable outcomes? Well, we're looking for even cards. Evens are 2, 4, 6, 8, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8. There's 4 of those. And what's our total sample space? Well, there's a total of 9 cards. So our sample space is 9. Well, if we can determine our number of favorable outcomes and our sample space, now we've written our fraction. We just have to put it in the right format. So we would write the probability of getting an even is equal to 4/9. 4 over 9. Again, we want to practice writing our probabilities in as fractions, decimals, and percents. So to determine what 4/9 is as a decimal, we would need to divide 4 by 9. This is something I'll let you pause and use a calculator if you'd like to calculate that out. And then let's compare. So we should get the decimal rounded to the nearest hundredth spot as 0 and 44 hundredths. That means if it's 0 and 44 hundredths as a percent, it would be 44%. Alright, let's try the second question. Here we have the spinner. Again, it's the one divided into thirds. And we're being asked to find what would the probability be of spinning the spinner and landing on a yellow or red. So now we have 2 possible colors that we're looking for as a possibility. So again, we want to determine how many are favorable outcomes. In this case, what would it be for yellow and red? And what's the sample space? What are the total number of outcomes? Go ahead and see if you can answer that, pausing the video if you need to, and then we'll compare. So I see yellow and red as being 2. Oops, wrong thing. Let's go back. Here's the one I want. As being 2. Out of the total, our sample space, there's 1, 2, 3 total outcomes, so 3 is our sample space. So go ahead and write out what is the probability of getting a yellow or a red. We would expect that to be 2/3. 2/3 as a decimal, that's a good one to memorize. It would be 0 and 6 repeating, but again we're going to stop round to the nearest hundredths place. So it'd be 0 and 67 hundredths. We can double check that if you need to by taking 2 divided by 3. And that'll give us, rounded to the hundredths place, 0 and 67 hundredths, which means as a percent, it would be what? You got it, 67%. Let's do one final question. Here we have a bag of marbles, and we're being asked to calculate the probability of not getting a blue marble. Let's see how far you can get using the same process as we've been using for the last 2 questions. Pause the video if you need to, and then resume the video when you're ready to check your work with mine. How'd you do? If you counted up that there were 6 marbles in this bag that are not blue, right? 4 yellows and 2 greens. I would agree with you. That would be our favorable outcomes in our numerator. And there are 10 total marbles, so that's our sample space in the denominator. But 6/10 is not a simplified fraction, so we have to simplify it. 6 divided by 2 is 3. We can divide 10 by 2 also, which is 5. So 3/5, so I can highlight that, 3/5 would be the form that we would want to write our answer in. And 3/5, 6/10 and 3/5 as a decimal is equal to 0 and 6/10. Right? That's our big hint right there. And 6/10 as a percentage is 60%. So the probability of not getting a blue marble from this bag would be 60%. So that's going to conclude our video. Be sure to leave room for your summary here and make sure that your notes are fully complete. And we will continue to do more work with probability in class.